and welcome to the Digital CxO podcast. I'm Amanda Razani, and with me today, of course, is Mike Vizard. How are you?
Good to be here as always.
Well, we have some really fun things to discuss today. And so first, we're going to talk about drones and how they're being used in warehouses. We have some really neat articles over on Digital CxO that you can check out, but they're being used currently for some inferred case counting and speeding up the process of delivery. And we're hearing more about this being used in the manufacturing area. So what are you hearing, Mike?
I was excited to see a story about drones that didn't involve killing people. So that's what I was kind of excited about. So not to be too facetious about it, but that seems to be like the number one use case. Kind of like, I think we could use this stuff for better things.
Yes.
And, warehouses, they're becoming more robotic, and it makes sense to me that there's a drone flying around with a little infrared camera that's going to, take care of inventory, probably be done faster and a little more accurately over time. I'm hoping that, the folks who work in the warehouse, that we'll find more interesting things for them to do to add some value on top of that, because, I'm not sure. Maybe they're not going to work in the warehouse, but we need to make sure we're retraining all these people as we bring all these innovations along, right?
Yes, and you can find a lot of pieces on Digital CxO about other use cases for drones in the manufacturing industry. It goes beyond the warehouses to the delivery. So last mile delivery when it's hard to get to certain places in a timely manner or due to some sort of weather issue or traffic issue, utilizing drones for that. In fact, there's a piece about Chick-fil-A is going to start using drones to deliver food and various other retail stores that are going to deliver products.
We're going to need an AI traffic cop for all these drones flying around because they're likely to smack into each other at some point. And of course, some people may take delight in trying to knock them out of the sky, but that's probably not a good idea. But things will happen.
Well, it was just recently May the 4th, and so we've been rewatching all the Star Wars movies in order, and, I hope we're not anywhere like that soon, having all these drones everywhere.
Yeah, it could. I don't know how it's going to play out ultimately. Do we have to, give drones their own airspace now, and are planes going to have to fly higher? There's only so much room in the sky, so exactly where will the planes fit? Where would the drones fit? Sounds to me like an FAA problem.
Yes, it's a good question. We'll see what happens. I haven't seen any drones flying around my town delivering anything yet, but I'm sure it starts in the bigger cities. So next is virtual tours. This is a big area that we're seeing. Augmented reality and virtual reality is being implemented more and more in the travel industry. And you can see several pieces over on Digital CxO, but there's a survey that shows that the tour market is hitting $18 billion by 2035, the virtual tour market. And some other pieces on there about buildings where you can get tours of the buildings and landmarks via virtual reality.
We talked a little bit about this last episode, and this article kind of moves that whole conversation forward. But so I was unclear, though. Is a virtual tour something that I physically go to and then I get an augmented reality experience, or is it I stay at home and I just kind of buzz around the Grand Canyon because somebody already took a drone and captured the footage and presented it to me in a way that I don't have to leave home?
It's both. It is both. So we've got buildings that you can enter, and they're very, they have virtual reality things inside of them. And then we also are talking about staying home and using virtual reality to get tours of places that maybe you can't visit otherwise. So it's both.
Do you think some people will just stay home and there might not be as much travel to the actual location? It could have a negative impact on local tourism, but I don't know. I'm just kind of postulating for grins here. How do you see this playing out?
Well, as far as that goes, I see it more as a tool to get people to want to visit those places. I'm thinking about myself personally. If I can see, when I'm looking to be inspired for places to visit, I like to look them up and I look at lots of pictures. And if I could have some sort of virtual tour and familiarize myself from home with the area. And then I'd be inspired to go visit. And I'd feel more comfortable because I am more familiar with the area now, especially if it's another country. So I think it's just going to help.
All right. All those people asking for directions in New York City will probably slowly but surely dissipate in time.
Maybe so. I mean, I could see that being such a great tool to have a tour of big cities and to know where you're going ahead of time through it, like feeling like you've actually been there and walked those blocks. And then when you're there, it should be like a piece of cake.
All right. I'm with you.
So next, avatars. We have an article that you shared recently, and NVIDIA and ServiceNow have recently demoed a customer service avatar, which allows humans to ask the avatar to do different tasks in a very natural way and eliminate some of those tedious tasks. So can you share more about it?
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of buzzing about generative AI and all these AI assistants, but the next wave of this is going to be avatars that we assign personality traits to, right? There's no reason why that AI assistant that you're currently using called a Copilot won't one day have some personality traits that you ascribe to it that have, they could be funny, they could be serious, they could be advisory, and I think we're going to have a bunch of these that we're all going to use to accomplish various tasks. But it was just interesting to watch, and from a digital CxO perspective, it's kind of like, well, this is not very far away. I mean, it's not here today. It's probably overly expensive to produce using the current GPU technologies, but if you're planning on a 3 to 5 year horizon window, you might want to start thinking about this a little bit because I feel like it's going to be commonplace.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, who wouldn't want to just be able to ask an avatar to do a bunch of tasks and move on to other tasks at the same time? It'll certainly speed up processes and be more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff that, we never get to in our lives that somebody could handle for us. And I think who hasn't said at one point, I need my own assistant.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And next up, we have the world of sports. And we've got a new potential streaming service to debut this fall. It's all the main players in sports television. They're going to come together and offer a streaming platform. However, it's being a little bit contested by certain companies who say they're going to be sort of like a monopoly and there's going to be no other choices because all the big ones are going to be together in that one package. So it's not going to be as affordable. I think it was in the realm of, say, $30, $40, $50 a month. When you think about that, along with everything else you're probably going to be paying for, it's like, why don't you just get regular television again?
Well, yeah, you're going to wind up paying more no matter how you look at it. So anybody who tells you that, we're going to bundle services together to save you money is probably lying. But it's an interesting dilemma. So let's say I am the New York Yankees and I have my own Yes Network and I make a fortune off of that Yes Network and I use that money to fund the talent that I use to drive a ball club. So why am I going to be interested in joining up with some combined service? Now, if I'm, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates and I don't have a network, then maybe this is an interesting alternative and, it'll be a revenue stream for them. At the same time, though, as far as I've seen in the last year, Apple has streaming games. So is AWS for that matter. And sometimes, frankly, it's a little annoying trying to figure out what game is being played where by whom because, what network is it on? I just used to know that in the previous years, and maybe these guys will make it simpler, or maybe I'll discover sports that I never knew existed before because, my son was telling me about, some hockey game between Mongolia and Macau recently. And I was like, where were you watching that? And he was like, some obscure internet service. And there you go.
You raise a good point there. We do have the same issue when we're trying to find some particular sports event and we don't remember what station it's on. And we're sitting there clicking through stations and clicking through all the apps and everything. So that convenience factor of you can find any sport on one streaming platform would be pretty nice. I think a lot of people would like that.
And hopefully they'll get to know my tastes and maybe they'll surface games that they know that I'm interested in versus always me trying to figure out who's playing when and where. It would just be nice to say, we realize that you're a Yankee fan and there's actually a Red Sox-Orioles game on that you care about because the Orioles are chasing the Yankees and they're half game out. And I'll be like, oh, I won't care about that. So I'm hoping for a little more personalization, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as we see with a lot of platforms, the popularity will determine the price. If it's really popular and everybody is catching on and using it, what I tend to see is the price goes up a little bit. It'll prove whether or not it's worth it or not.
Now, do you think that these streaming sports services will, heavens to Betsy, be hooked up to gambling sites?
That is a good question. I think there'd be you'd have to look at legalities and everything else of that.
Yeah, I believe it's already legal in most states. So, it seems to me maybe at the end of the day, the big casinos are going to wind up owning the streaming services because they're going to be like, hey, yeah, we'll advertise on it. And then they'll sit there and go, geez, it's just cheaper to buy this thing than it is to advertise on it.
And that very well could happen. There is going to certainly be a lot of advertising opportunities. And like you said, the teams that aren't anywhere on TV right now, it's a good opportunity to just tag on those other additional rando, channel, not rando per se, but, all those other sports that might not be normally aired could have a chance to be aired through just, these additional extras on these services.
Well, the expat, let me try that again. Well, the let me try that again. The expats from various cities that live around the world and they're still sports fans for the team that they grew up in, they're going to be very happy because they're going to be like, I can actually watch my team, even though I'm living in Singapore or wherever it is.
Yes, that's true. So that brings us to the end of today's list. And we would like to ask you to share your comments and tell us, what do you like hearing about? What are you most interested in? And then share in the comments so we can cover more of that. Meanwhile, if you want to read all the details, go to Digital CxO to read all about what we talked about today. And Mike, do you have any last words?
Yeah, if you have some cool instance of a digital transformation, by all means, share. Send us an email. Send it to either Amanda or Mike. It's Amanda or Mike at techstronggroup.com. We'd love to check it out, or we'll get one of our fellow writers to go do something with it, and then we'll feature it on the show. So, hey, guys, share.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, that does it. Thank y'all and have a wonderful rest of your week.